Might be burning.
All right, the stream is now live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first inaugural live debate stream from the left wing, joined by the wonderful John Cooper and the prestigious Nick Powers. Fellas, how you doing today?
Well, how are you?
Doing all right. John?
Doing good. Ready to do a live stream, TJ. Audience, we've never done this before. We have no idea how it goes. We're winging it. Let's see how this works.
It's a true the left winging it. We haven't done one of those in a while. The left winging it. I see we got a comment from Plank. Isn't that like an Ed and Eddie character or something? Mm-hmm. As an undecided voter, I am excited to listen in on these three gentlemen share their plans for addressing our most pressing issues. Well, I don't know how much that's going to be going on. I don't know how much.
I think he's referring to the older gentlemen who will be on the debate stage, not us, TJ.
Okay. I had little illusions of grandeur there. I thought it was talking about me and John. In that case, I'll take our coverage over theirs anytime. I think we could go with that.
Yeah.
While we're here, you know what? Let me try something here. Since the debate hasn't started yet. But Nick shared something the other day or today that I wanted to show with the audience here. He put together this bingo card for the debate that I think is fantastic. So we got our categories here: incoherent ramble, witch hunt. Witch hunt's got to be my number one. That's got to be there. There's no way Trump gets this thing without saying witch hunt. No chance.
Yeah.
Shut up. Eye rolls. We'll look carefully for those. Most important election ever. That's something I always make fun of that people always say. Prison. I'm interested if prison's going to come up. That's a good one. I'm interested if that's going to come up. Immigration, definitely.
I think it'll come up. I don't know who will say it, though. I don't know who's the first to say prison.
Right.
This is a shoe-in, ruining the country. Someone insults the moderator. We know who that someone would be. Hunter Biden, absolute lock. Let's see. Oh, hold on. Red Scare Claire, not a bingo card. Yes, a bingo card. It's gonna happen. Project 2025, that's an outside one. We'll see. I think convicted felon.
Read a story today that Biden is going to intentionally attack Project 2025. So we'll see if that's true.
All right. Nobody knows. Come on. Yeah, definitely. No one knows more about this than me. Something vague about the Bible. Definitely. Christian nation. Christian nationalism. I think we'll put that in there too. Fentanyl.
Yeah.
What is that? Communism. Communism. Of course. Someone is cut off with a muted mic. So, like, are you saying that someone is not their turn to speak and they try to speak, or someone's talking and their mic gets muted? Which one were you saying?
Yeah, somebody's talking and their mic gets cut off because they were already either they were already warned or their time went out or something. And either way, they can't finish the sentence because their mic.
That's basically another free space. That
love it.
It's 100% going to happen.
Yeah, Blue City. Someone invents a new word. Let's hope so. I like this. Like. What President Warren G. Harding started this tradition by inventing the word normalcy 100 years ago. So we'll keep the tradition strong. Sleepy Joe's, good one. Rigged, malarkey, an old classic, and wake up. I like that. Wake up's pretty funny. But do you guys have any predictions? I mean, no one wins these, but predictions on who will perform the best.
I think I know who will perform the worst. I don't necessarily think that either of them are going to be the best at anything.
Fair enough.
But I think Donald Trump is going to be wrong louder than Biden.
But is that a bad thing, Nick? That might be a good thing in terms of what the audience thinks is correct.
That's true.
Your prediction, John?
I think it really, I mean, the MVP of this, if is going to be whoever made Biden's cocktail. Biden's pharmacist is going to be the big winner. I think Trump is going to get himself in trouble here. I think that if Biden is playing this right, which I think, honestly, I do think the DNC and Biden has been playing this relatively right compared to what they were doing a couple months ago. And I think they're going to go after Trump on the points that hurt and Trump won't be able to stay on message, and he's gonna like tell everyone he's gonna be a dictator. It's gonna come out of his mouth, and he's not gonna be able to help it, and that's gonna be bad for him.
Yeah. Biden pretty much just has to be there. Like the mistake the Republicans have made all this time is saying that, Biden can't tie his own shoes. He doesn't know his own name. So it's going to be a lot like the State of the Union thing, that he comes up and is just a competent human being for an hour and a half. That's a win for him. Like the bar is really low for Biden. And Trump doing well, I don't even know what that looks like. I got to tell you, I don't know what like performing well looks like for Trump tonight, because Biden took away his two biggest strengths, which is playing off the crowd and bullying. He's not going to be able to do that effectively. So Trump, I think the best he could do is to come off as a normal politician, just like, responding in time and everything. But that's not Trump anymore. That's not what, gets his audience rock hard, So I just don't know how he comes out looking good in this. Or he could be belligerent and try to yell and everything, cup his hands and try to interrupt Biden from across the stage. Either way, I just don't see how he puts in a great performance. I don't know what that even looks like.
I think there is a non-zero chance that Trump walks over to Biden's podium while his mic is muted so he can interrupt him. I wish I was joking.
Non-zero is a good way to put that. Yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
Let's see. Michael says, "Oh, I can't wait to see who invents a new word." I know it's even odds. I mean, either one, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump is he's got the gold medal for that so far. I don't think Biden's invented anything as good as kafefe. So Trump definitely has that one locked up so far. Let's see. True. Kyle says, "If I were a betting man, I would bet Trump would get so frustrated he can't interrupt Biden. He will leave." No, I think you'd lose that bet. I don't think he's walking off the stage. I don't think that's going to happen. Leave the debate early.
Great, though.
It would be great TV.
Yeah.
Both of them have the same strategy to get Trump to talk.
That's true.
And
I've heard that actually.
Yeah.
I can just see him stealing mics. That would be funny. What hadn't you heard?
Oh, that the Biden campaign strategy is literally to show Trump being Trump. And that's the reason this debate is happening, is so they can get Trump in the public eye, and that will convince voters to vote for Biden.
So people were wondering why they were doing the debate so early, because usually the first presidential debate is in September. This is super early, and there was a lot of talk about
the
that.
earliest in history.
Yeah, that Biden just wanted to show people, hey, remember this guy, because you don't like him, and just get his face out there and, get more exposure, and especially get exposure while he's at his lowest point after the conviction and everything.
Right.
That's just what I've heard that they wanted to kind of go with. It comes, and here's a drinking game. Are you going to propose one, Gaming Kitten, or would you say that we mentioned something that was
the bingo card is a drinking game? You can turn any bingo card into a drinking game.
It's hard for me to say too many shots, but that's too many shots. That's
I know, fellas. Next debate, we gotta lighten it up. We gotta liven it up a bit and just have Just so everyone knows, John was just talking earlier about how we don't know how the sound mixing is going to work here. Keeping talking over it or whatever. Let's see. Just remember, each space only counts once. Oh, to drink. Let's see. For this, use water.
Might be too much water.
I like that idea. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll all die.
Yes.
Ton of political nerds die of alcohol poisoning watching the Trump Biden debate. That'd be pretty fun.
Honestly, that's an apt metaphor for the state of American politics.
I like it. I was trying to find a clever name for this this live. I was looking at rhymes for like confused old men or something. And I came up with Meander in Chief. I thought that was pretty good for these guys.
That's good.
I didn't title it that. I was going to save it till later when someone actually did it, because it sounds kind of confusing for the debate. But I kind of wish I had now. Meander in Chief is pretty good.
I like that.
I can't come up with a better one.
Michael Dupé is still here. I actually know him, and I actually know her. She'll be able to throw out a lot of those puns. I am 100% sure.
Oh, she's already on it. I like the comment Michael made that we should use Kool-Aid. That's good. That's kind of good. That is too.
Good. Yeah.
And remainder in chief. I like that. Yeah, you called it, Nick.
Remainder in chief. Yep. You called it. She's already. I figured the second that you said that, she was going to go to town on those puns.
All right, let's see if we can get this off the ground here.
Good evening. We are just moments away from one of the most consequential events of this presidential campaign.
I can hear.
Yep. President Biden and former President
You guys have
Trump
to tell us in the comments how
in
we're
the first debate of the general election. The two meeting for the first time
that's what
since 2020. They will outline their contrasting visions for America. This is also a chance for you, the voters, to judge the candidates in one of the only face-to-face confrontations before the election. Our CBS News team will be back after the debate for analysis and fact-checking. Now to Atlanta for the first presidential debate.
What people get mad about with Biden, like Biden is not great by any stretch of the imagination, but there's not much to get mad about with him. Like we've talked about this before, TJ, where it's like you basically have to make shit up about immigrants when Biden is the one pushing for conservative immigration legislation. Like it really, there's not much to attack other than just not liking the guy.
Yeah,
you're on the right. Like if you're to the right of Biden.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I assumed that's what you meant.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, go ahead, Nick.
If you're, no, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say that conservatives like Biden or hate Biden for like made up conspiratorial nonsense. Like he's like some sort of Don Corleone style crime boss. Just complete nonsense. And but Democrats or liberal or socialists and leftists actually hate Biden for legitimate reasons. I think the hate is actually stronger there than it is for conservatives because theirs is all made up.
Yeah. No, that's essentially what I was going to say. I mean, Biden's biggest crime when you're a conservative is being slightly to the left of Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
That's where he is in politics.
Like his genuine largest legislative thing is like building shit. Like it's really hard to get mad at that.
Yes.
How dare he use government funds to build bridges?
And he pays lip service to fighting climate change. Like, oh no, he still he doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, he's done more than other presidents, but that's still not a lot.
He ended a war, and they are seething in rage about it. That's true. Oh, let's go.
Literally looks like a crime boss. Like he walks like a crime boss.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here.
I wonder how many crime bosses were based off of him.
The issue that voters consistently say is their top concern: the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall.
He sounds like shit.
The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs, and we brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem.
Yeah, I have
the price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination that I was left with in corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos. literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military.
God, he sounds
no wars, and so many other things. Everything was
both sound
either of them.
What is
sound
going
good.
on?
We got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster.
I think they gave
for
Trump
our country.
downers.
Other than that, we had
They gave Biden too many uppers.
a country where the actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, the bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Tie is too tight.
Thank you. President Biden?
Oh, wait, that's a bingo card. Or that's a bingo. Or
I don't know anybody else who thinks he's the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that we put ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
You are allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S.
Might be a long night.
How will you ensure that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No,
that's not
he inherited
fair.
almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing. And they don't know what they were doing. It was probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan. We were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Very pointed question.
Tax cuts the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before. and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we
did
came
get
up
through COVID better than everyone.
We gave him something great. Remember, more people
from
died
an economic sense
under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore.
That stopped
like a third world
that started when we elected Trump, by the way.
His election, trying to go after his political opponent. All of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean,
you said trillionaires?
Trillionaires.
Oh, no. They, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they've raised $500 billion, I should say.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
This is really bad. This is really bad.
Child care, elder care. Making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
Good line. It's a good line.
All of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy
Michael,
Social
I feel like it's going to get even worse than this.
Not a good start for Biden.
They're trying to put
No.
He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America.
That's definitely not true. That's his biggest lie. No
like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals,
no
conservatives.
exceptions. No exceptions.
Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, and getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result. It was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions.
He looks like Popeye.
And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But
Some people don't.
You have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected.
Yet remember, everybody is on board with this, okay? Everyone.
Take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
Countries come together on the abortion issue.
He has to.
The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
That was a weird answer.
The women being killed by their sisters and getting pregnant. That's a big problem out there.
We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would everybody wanted.
I think it's about time to check that off of the bingo card.
Yeah.
Many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
Okay, now stop talking.
He can.
He barely got that answer right.
Took it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month.
I can't believe Democrats haven't crafted a good answer for this thing. For as often as Republicans say this, I never hear them address the issue. Never.
It's not true.
Political malpractice.
Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats
so close
are
to
the
an eye roll.
radicals, not the Republicans.
51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51
Biden
years.
drugs have finally kicked in.
Because this guy members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? In fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration. Southern border on your watch.
That was the first good exchange.
Overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety.
It did not start off good, though.
Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers, significantly. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
That's good. Trump is on it tonight. He's on it.
The board, all he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him.
He's doing Brandon.
Look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in caravans.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, killed three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation.
He should be saying, I'm putting forward legislation.
Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed three people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in.
Hundreds of thousands of people.
I have no idea what
you're trying to say there. People in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. We call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And we have to get these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living.
Biden thinks they are.
Hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved, choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing you said is a lie. Every single thing. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families
That's true,
have
actually.
It because it happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma.
Oh, Trump walked right into this one.
In France for D-Day. And I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up. Just like
we have videos showing you saying it, but
agents are made up. Just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking, it's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son Hunter.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is.
We got it.
Bridget, you're on fire.
Right now.
4-star general standing to your side who's on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing.
I don't like that line one bit.
They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
Probably a good one, but I hate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, John. I wrote down veterans as pawns. That's exactly what I wrote down here.
Ukraine, which is now in its 3rd year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him.
TJ, what do you think?
We've ever had.
To be fair, he's right.
You can't stand him. More than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, a president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers.
Biden's face.
He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible, embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13
There's no one in the
beautiful
audience.
soldiers.
How did
38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never.
This is
just like Israel.
A lot of not answering that question.
In a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration.
No terror
this
at all.
place,
No terror.
Blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life.
There it is.
Let's take the last one first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing.
I caught that too, Michael.
Number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute. I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine.
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion.
He would win.
More.
If Putin stepped on the stage right now, he would demolish those
people. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so stupidly. And I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
Before you take office.
You have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear.
Biden's like, I would know.
He wants to reestablish part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East.
Nick, I think I realized why Biden wanted the debate in June. Like it's clicking for me now. Like I kind of get it.
Hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza.
You did not expect this question.
So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself has endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions.
You've already said that, and Israel has said no.
The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas.
We know that, Nick, but regular folk
are still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened in Israel? We're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him.
Give me a name, Donald.
He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO?
War in Europe.
We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. If you want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia? At a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump,
I want to make him answer that
January
question.
6, 2021.
I wanted to hear his answer to that question.
I really wanted to hear his answer for that question.
To stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest.
Was that an eye roll? Did we get it?
Yeah,
January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership
just say, notice how he didn't
is
answer
horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left.
Say rigged.
My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C., they turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see. I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
What?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up to the Capitol.
Did he just claim Nancy Pelosi said she takes full responsibility for January 6th?
I think that's what he said.
Well, you know how it is. The buck stops with someone else. We're the president of the United States. That's how it is.
A number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, he talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll not forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that, no. He went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said
it's 60. How does he not know that?
This guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that there could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon.
There it is.
Walk right into it.
What he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part.
His face says it like you knew he walked into it.
Yep.
And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have.
Let him answer.
Let him answer the question, dumbass.
What
the fuck? God.
Elected, you would have
Republicans
every
are
right
right.
to go
This debate does
after,
suck.
your
This format is
political
terrible.
opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations
Weakest
lapse
answer
on
from
the
Trump
most
so
important
far.
things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with his son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting.
Oh, there
I did
it is.
nothing wrong.
Thank you,
There
President
it is.
Right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one.
That's the one he
two,
denies.
It was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat.
Oh, Trump, why are you doing this? Shut the fuck up. Why are you doing this to yourself?
Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are.
The civil case was him going after a political opponent.
These cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you hear any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? You ever hear any presidents say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying torches, and seeing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him, they said, what do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? This is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
I don't know if Trump said that or not.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden?
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. But there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
All right. They went a full hour without, no, half an hour. Yeah, an hour without a break. I thought they would break before that, but I figured
usually breaks. I don't remember breaks.
Oh, I just thought there were breaks. Yeah.
Yeah. No. There definitely are, because I remember that there's a different rule with this debate surrounding breaks. Like they're not allowed to talk to their staff during the breaks.
Okay.
So I knew that there was going to be, but I didn't expect it to be an hour before it happened.
Yeah, I was not expecting it to go that long. It was. I have written down here, rough start for Biden. He sounded nervous. Honestly, I think Trump is winning so far as the eyeball test goes and everything. Biden, I think Biden, I'm surprised Biden didn't do more attacking. I don't know about you guys. I expect him to do a lot more because why not? Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of surprising. What do you guys think?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Biden's not saying a whole lot of anything at all.
No.
And Trump's doing a whole lot of lying. So it's difficult to determine for me who's winning, because when Biden actually does say something, there is a solid chance that it's incoherent. But when Trump says anything, it's like flagrantly false. So,
but flagrantly false beats incoherent every single day of the week is the problem.
Say what, John?
Flagrantly false beats incoherent every single day of the week. Like
unfortunately, that's true.
Yeah, it does.
I'm telling you, I went from I'm pretty sure Biden's going to win to I think Trump is going to win now. Like that. This is a nuclear catastrophe for the Biden campaign.
Like wait, win the debate or win the election?
The election.
I don't know.
So
I think it's early, but like, how do you recover from being clearly?
So the thing is that when it comes to stuff like this, especially these days, like no one's gonna remember this a month from now. That's why I brought that thing up with Nick. That I see why Biden did that. I was curious about this myself. I think Biden will suffer. I mean, unless something turns around real quick, he's gonna suffer a hit in polls and everything. But August,
he's already behind in the polls. Like he's losing. Nate Silver came out. He has a 33% chance of winning as of yesterday.
No,
yesterday I thought they were split evenly.
Yeah,
so popular vote. He has a 51% chance of winning the popular vote. He only has a 33% chance of winning the electoral college. That was according to 538. Okay. You can say whatever you want about it, but like he is behind. Like the numbers say he is behind. You have to hope that the numbers are wrong in order to think that he's ahead. And I think that he needs to do something positive And this is going to be the story now. He doesn't have another chance to prove he isn't senile until when now? And like, that's all that is going to be in people's minds.
I can't remember the next debate. So this is what I'll say about that is like, do you remember when that story came out from that one U.S. attorney, and it was an official report about how Biden was a senile old man, and that's why they weren't charging him? Remember that? It was like in February or something.
I don't remember.
You guys remember that?
No.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, well, never mind then. So I think. Whoa, we'll get to that.
What was your point? Was that it doesn't matter because this is good
that's
evidence?
Exactly what
we fell right into that.
It was like I'm surprised you guys. It was like a week-long news story that because it was when they were investigating him for his classified documents and everything. And the U.S. attorney said that they think juries will believe Biden is the senile old man who is just, misplaced his stuff. And that was like, people forget this audio.
I remember that now, but I think that's a different thing than a national.
And you'd certainly
debate,
face again in a second term. President Biden, while Black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small Black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that Black families have to make relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black childcare costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for childcare costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those childcare protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly.
That's a good answer.
For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those Black families and those Black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled, and tripled, and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation.
Biden,
as sure as you're sitting there,
Biden doesn't address the fact of the Green New Deal.
His big kill
anything at all
on the Black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking Black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20
the brown
million
people are taking the Black people jobs, guys.
And they're taking Hispanic jobs. You haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for the health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They've tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in the position where the idea that we're not doing anything, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis.
Did he make up a word?
2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities
he said
across
malfeasance. He said
the
a real
country
word.
are confronting the devastating effects
He
of
just
extreme
butchered
heat,
it.
intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state.
We love our cops, don't we, folks?
Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name.
He doesn't defend himself here.
And they've taken great offense at it. And now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job. Great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country. Opportunity zones.
Putting
and the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs. And it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
We should have put immigration on here like 4
38 seconds
times.
left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water.
There it is.
And I want absolutely clean air. And
He
we
does it
had
all
it.
the time.
We had
every
H2O.
time.
We had the best numbers ever. And we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
What does that mean?
It's not a statistic. Saying that something's the best isn't a statistic.
What does that mean?
I passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves
in American history. That's true.
Black colleges. I came up with $50 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have those. They don't have the kind of contributors that
I was going to mention that Trump bragged about funding black colleges, like every president.
Black students like the weird now to be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water.
That's what I was thinking, Michael.
Cleanest water. He hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
I think Trump is actually hurting himself harping on immigration so much. Honestly, it's weird.
We, in fact,
it's weird.
We were the only ones of consequence who are not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We've not able to, the United States can't get its under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people who learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
so every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older
No, he just stopped talking.
Social Security
close,
provides
though.
a critical lifeline.
Damn.
President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now,
Right.
everybody
Has he
making
brought
under
this up before?
$170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck.
Well,
every single
Donald
time
Trump
they
talked
get a
about,
paycheck from the time the first one they get.
Trump
they're
accused
18 years
Biden
old.
of trying to
The
remove
idea
Social
that they're
Security.
I'm not,
But
I'm
taxing the
proposing
rich
that
hasn't come up yet,
everybody,
except
they
for
pay-
Donald
Yeah,
Trump
I haven't
removing
heard Biden
taxes
say
on
that.
them.
millionaires pay 1%. 1%. So no one after, I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help
Just
keep
say no.
Social Security
Just say
solvent,
no.
or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And that's what, and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, we're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is we're in a situation where we talk about education for Black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Security. I don't know why.
I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He could look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's
Kyle,
misinformation and disinformation.
For these two.
The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace.
Like, it wasn't a good answer for politicians
He's destroying
in general.
it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing. And It's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
I really wanted Trump to ban Social Security.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good.
Did he answer a question?
And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI during the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people.
That's true.
You pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons,
very rich person answer,
from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed?
Biden should say, no, I didn't, because I don't hire incompetent people. That's what I could
waste a lot of time on this.
Competent person would smash him over the head.
President. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a
Kyle. That's all he needs.
I get people hired.
Reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters.
God. In fact, he literally said that he didn't want open borders.
If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have
this is the most important
election ever. Doing better. I think
He's
Trump
the worst
is doing
in
worse.
history by far.
The quality of Biden hasn't gone up, but Biden might be winning now because Trump.
Trump is not looking good.
Capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing in child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden.
How did you not go after the fire thing?
What would you do to make child care?
I know. You got cut off.
Just so you understand,
Nick, I think
we have Poland.
Did he get cut off? Did he
get
talk
cut
after the microphone?
They rate him
oh,
the
good.
worst
Okay, cool.
Because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me. I'll show you. I will show you. And they rate me one of the best. Okay. And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like
why
us.
doesn't your own vice president endorse you?
He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts.
4 times.
Everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before.
That's
All
true.
my life, I grow up and I see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff. He will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I never raised the tax on anybody.
I don't think that's your ADHD, Michael.
I didn't.
That's just been
tariff,
talking.
10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more, because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that are very important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are at the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost.
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss
Why
it
is it
impacting
incoherent?
millions of Americans that both of you have made a top.
Trump said he
priority
fired a
in
lot of
term.
people, which was very true.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, he did fire a lot of people.
It's kind of his
Overdose
thing.
deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids.
there it is.
There it
What
is.
will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction?
No bingo yet. We're
who are struggling to get the treatment.
No,
they
I'm
need?
2 away though, in a lot of different
Finish up.
places.
Yep.
We now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs, because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't, because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen.
That one?
It's killing our country.
So, President Trump, you have
did.
67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the
We were
2.5,
doing
almost
great.
3 years
No
of, like
opioid
nobody's
crisis
ever had before,
before
any
COVID.
country, in every way.
There's
And
no
then
way
we had to
the
get
deficit
tough.
is higher
and
now than it was
the
during
drugs
COVID, right?
pouring
I
across the border.
there's no way that's
were-
true. I mean,
it
I can't
started
imagine.
to increase. We got great equipment. We
can't.
bought the certain
It can't
dog
be.
that's
I
the most incredible
can't imagine.
thing that you've ever seen. The way they can spot it. We did a lot, and we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers. Have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him, because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers.
Oh, we got fentanyl a while ago.
of
Thank you,
agents,
though.
more numbers of all
Oh, yeah.
across the border. And when we had that deal done,
I also want to point out that the numbers that Trump is referring to is the fentanyl that's been caught at the border, which means if you increase security, you're going to catch more. So he's literally complaining that that Biden's doing a better job.
We need those machines, and we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico.
Oh, of course.
He ended Catch and Release.
So
I made it Catch and Release in Mexico, not Catch and Release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars.
Wait a second.
For the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had two cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Trump has officially gotten more incoherent than Biden has.
Yeah. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate.
That is
true.
Now
I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought all a lot of people. The whole idea, computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call them, to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before.
That is true, actually.
Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America.
Now I don't know about their salaries.
We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done.
That was a huge claim.
We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests.
Oh, my God.
Both of them, as you know, were made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him pick one. I took physical exam.
Christ. And, Biden's freaking laughing too.
Wherever we may have wood,
that's so bad.
I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. Hit the ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take the cognitive test. And you know what? I didn't do well. I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy, and he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody.
Thank you. President Biden.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, he said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him.
Why have you been doing the whole debate, man? Oh my God! There was 1 minute left. Christ!
And by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag.
He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
They're fucking talking their golf handicaps.
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay,
let's not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn
let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Man. Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi
talk
said,
about the crowd at January 6th.
She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, a required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done, what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Yes, hold him to that question.
If I might. Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump. Nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous.
Thank God.
Oh, no.
In a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job.
Yeah, okay.
He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, a nice location someplace.
Finish him.
No indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
Is there more?
Oh, I thought it was only an hour and a half.
I thought it was 2.
Oh, it's 2? Okay.
Huh.
Oh, boy, that was a rough section there, man. You know what I want to point out is that Biden snatched defeat from the jaws of victory there. Like, he turned a home run into a base hit. Trump went on for like 5 minutes about his Alzheimer's test and how good of a golf player he was and how physically fit and active. And all Biden had to do was stop when he said, "Oh, I'll play golf with you as long as you carry your own golf bags." That was a great line.
That's it. Yeah.
And then he took the bait of like, well, actually, I'm a 6 handicap. I was like, oh God, man, that was just awful. That was
one of the most embarrassing. Like I cannot imagine if I'm like a fucking Frenchman right now and going like, are they seriously debating their fucking golf handicap to see who's going to be the most powerful man in the world? Like, that's fucking embarrassing. But I feel better. Like, I think Biden won that second phase.
Yeah, that section goes to Biden. Barely.
Yeah, it does.
I don't think it undoes the damage of his first. But yeah.
I don't know. For me, it puts them about. Well, I also thought that they were both pretty even because, you know, but Trump just constantly lies and Biden was just incoherent. The first section. So I thought they were pretty even. So this, to me, that puts Biden a little bit ahead. But
the problem is, Nick, like, it doesn't matter if he lies. If you can't convince the audience that he lied, he should just keep lying. Like, his strategy is, and it's a winning strategy because Biden can't refute it because he cannot think on his feet.
No, that's true.
The lying hurt him with the election stuff, though.
Yes,
like that lie does hurt. The rest of them, I'm not so sure, but I think that one that he went all in on that doesn't make him look good. I find it very weird that he keeps implying this like backdoor deal he has with Putin. Like, you elect me and Putin will free the hostage. Like, okay, that's a weird thing to say. That is a very weird. That would bring along
elaborate.
I'm interested to know how normie Americans are reacting to the Ukraine thing, because I do think that is the biggest issue that Biden is winning on here. Like, I think Trump's answers to Ukraine have been very bad and they have. I wonder how normal people react to that.
Yeah. I wrote this down too. John, you mentioned Biden can't think of his feet. Trump said Biden is going to quadruple everyone's taxes, and Biden never addressed it. Like, why would you let him say that? That is insanity.
I'm not going to quadruple anyone's taxes except the rich. That is right there.
That's all he had to say.
That is wild. That is insane, man. I didn't
train for this at all. I didn't spend hours and hours and hours practicing. and I would be wiping the floor with Trump right now.
Or the firing. Like, did Biden fire anybody? I don't have to because I hire competent people. That's all he had to fucking say.
Easy. Every single person who worked with you isn't endorsing you. Boom. Easy. It's so. It's like it feels like when you're like you're watching your favorite team play football and the quarterback gets hurt and like then the second string quarterback gets hurt and the third string quarterback goes in and you're like, oh God, I hope that he can competently pass the ball. That's what I feel like watching Biden debate Trump right now.
It's like watching your star player go like 0 for 10 from the free throw. Like, okay, I can do that. Okay, I can definitely do that.
President Biden, you have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior.
Was it to make Biden recite
all of these numbers? It's happening now, and everybody in America.
What did you say, John?
Get rid of that.
Whose idea was it
to make sure
thought it was Biden? Just recite a bunch of numbers. You'll do really good at that.
I know, man.
We're going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump,
Obama
President Biden.
I want to point
Stay
that
with
out.
us because we have full analysis of this debate Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
All right, here we go.
That's it.
That is it. All right. So overall, I got to give that one to Trump. I think that my scorecard is definitely there if I was going to judge that properly. And John, I'm glad you brought this up where you said that whose idea was it to tell Biden? Here's 43 numbers I need you to say and everything. Also, bro, remember how they've been saying Biden spent 7 days on debate prep? That is 7 days worth of work. I don't believe it. I don't believe a moderately intelligent chicken would have that poor of a performance after 7 days of debate prep. That was very bad.
There was that. Remember, like that. It was like the second Obama debate versus Romney, where he just like Obama came out and just like shat the bed. It felt like any sleep the last night. Like it was just a bad performance. That was that version of Obama would have took his dick out and slapped both of those guys across the face, and he just walked them off the stage. That is how poor of a performance that. Like, it was bad on both ends, but Trump was like in what I would say expected range.
Right?
Right.
Worse than I could have possibly.
I've never seen Biden that bad before. I've never seen him that bad before. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Nick, what are your thoughts here?
No. Honestly, I was thinking that that Biden was a little bit ahead until the closing statements.
That was a bad closing statement.
That was awful. Those closing statements. Like, I mean, Trump's closing statements were about as expected. He was coherent for like 2 seconds, and then he went and rambled, and we had no idea where he was going. But Biden didn't say anything, but struggled to remember numbers.
I know. It's just that, and with I was thinking about
it's the closing statement too, guys. That like if you're practicing for 7 days and you can't even get through your closing fucking statement, like,
remember, all you have to do is remember a script. That's it.
Yes. Like 5 lines of script. I was thinking that too, because all right, I guess like even if you practice for 7 days, you can get caught off guard by a question that's worded a little incorrect. This is your script. No one can fuck this up. You said this 1,000 times. You should be able to say it in your sleep. And he stumbled through it. It's like, and what's gonna bother me is I already know that we're gonna have some like resistance libs out there who are gonna say, "Oh, you're gonna make fun of the guy for having a stutter?" Yes, he's the president of the United States. I'm sorry he has a stutter.
It's not even the stutter.
That's the thing. It's not the stutter.
Years ago, he wasn't this bad.
No, he was. Yeah, but it's like public speaking is part of the job as president of the United States. You need to be good at it. Like you knew this when you signed up for it. If you can't do it, maybe you shouldn't. I know that was bad. That was just not good.
For me, like I can understand. Oh, my monitor just died. Oh no, it's back. For me, I can understand the stutter. I've got a stutter too, right? I have to practice, but like I'm a content creator with a fucking stutter. You know? I make it work. You can do that.
You have stuttered less during this live stream than Joe. Like, and by less, I mean like 1,000 times less. Right. And you also have a stutter. Like, it's not the stutter, guys. He had the stutter 4 years ago. It is mind blowing that anyone with a straight face can tell me that is the same guy that we saw 4 years ago. The guy we saw 4 years ago would have crushed him there. He would have crushed him.
That was.
Yeah, that wasn't it.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. We're all fighting for it. You go ahead, TJ.
No. It's just that it was so easy too. The whole time I was thinking, I was like, man, like literally anybody I know could have crushed Trump in that debate, and Biden somehow didn't. Like, I can't think of someone who would have lost in that debate, and Biden actually did. That was embarrassing.
A random person off the streets who knows nothing about politics, and they would have crushed Trump in that debate.
Right.
Yeah.
And like just like John was saying, like stuttering's fine. You know, you can practice going through speeches with a stutter. You can respond to people like you can take additional time to respond to people with a stutter. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was he had no idea what he was saying when he was talking.
A good point by Kimberly. Like that was not State of the Union Biden.
I thought we would get State of the Union Biden. I thought we were getting
Biden was clear as crystal when he talked. This Biden, I couldn't follow anything. Like neither could he. Yeah, that didn't look good. I gotta say, like I'm surprised. I did not expect Biden to perform that poorly. And like you guys said, it's not like Trump did really well. Trump started out well, I think. I actually think Trump started out great. So I used to play in band when I was in high school, played trumpet like a fucking nerd. But I remember our band director always told us something that I still remember to this day. And I think about his speeches all the time, that you can fuck up a lot in a speech, but as long as you start well and end well, that's what people are going to remember. And that's what Trump did. Trump started well and he ended well. The middle was chaos, but the beginning and the ending were pretty cogent and concise. And Biden's best moments were like smattered in and out, when he got angry or whatever and animated. But that
look he gave him was probably the best moment for Biden the debate. If he would have verbalized that look, it would have been devastating. But he couldn't.
Right.
Oh God. A couple of political things here. I thought CNN put a real that was, if we had two competent presidential candidates, that would have been a really great debate format. That
it would,
they were on their game. I thought that was really good. And if we had anyone else on that stage, it would have been a very insightful debate.
And to be perfectly honest, I think this was more insightful than it had any right to be.
Yeah.
So I've watched a lot of presidential debates, and weirdly, this is the most not informative. Nothing informative happened. This is the most tame out of all of them.
It was the most policy focused. There was a lot of policy talk. Even relative to expectations, there was so much policy talk. But even relative to the any of the last several debates, I thought they did a better job of keeping the candidates focused on the questions.
Right.
Yeah.
And when one of the candidates, when Trump would go back and not answer the question because he's still answering either another question or something random that he brought up, they actually held him to that to actually make him answer, at least some of the time.
Except that one time where they cut him off. If that was an accident. They didn't mean to do that, I don't think, but they should have made him answer Biden's question.
They
should have condemned them. That could have been a win for Biden and CNN.
Yeah.
Also, Trump didn't have to answer anything about Israel and Gaza. That was frustrating. Trump went off the deep end, and they didn't hold him to that answer the same way as they held him to other answers, and that's frustrating.
Another thing I wanted to point out, I almost wrote this down during Biden's his closing remarks, where he talked about taxation and job rates. I was like, buddy, you're talking like you're not the president right now. You're complaining about the way I was like, it was a weird statement altogether, because he's like, I need to do this. I was like, bro, you're in charge. This is a weird it should.
He does that shit all the time, though, TJ. That is kind of his MO, where there's that drill tweet where he's like, this guy's always talking, and yo, somebody better do something about this shit.
I know, it's the hot dog thing. But he needed to do way more attacking on Trump. That's it, and he didn't, and that's honestly a little shocking, because I know he's not afraid to, but he didn't, and because you knew Trump would do that. I don't know. It was just God damn,
Trump was doing it. Trump had some rebuttals to Biden, but Biden didn't come back.
Because he couldn't, because he can't think on his feet. He can barely get out his rehearsed closing argument. He cannot generate ideas on his feet and verbalize them at the same time, and that's a problem. That's a big problem, and everyone in America just saw it. And I don't think you can put those worms back in the fucking. Whatever. I'm not the president. I can fuck up my speech. You can't put the worms back in the can. The toothpaste is out of the tube. I don't think even if he crushes him in the next debate.
I just don't know how you don't have a few in the chamber. There's some things Trump is going to say. Just have it ready. I just yikes.
He had the closing argument ready too, TJ.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe he did. He just couldn't get it out in time. I don't know. But it's just that we talked to a lot of people commenting here that they're talking about policy and it's a performance, and the performance is all that really matters. I didn't even think his makeup was that great. He did look kind of pale, I thought too. It was just did you thought that Oh, I thought it was
he should have come out with an orange spray tan.
Oh, that'd have been really funny. That would have been really funny. That would have been really funny. I don't know. Biden, I think his best. His best moment came when he challenged Trump to carry his own bags playing golf and saying that
was
you're
beautiful.
not 6'4", 220. That was great. That was excellent. But then he kept going. He kept going, oh, yeah, well, actually, I'm a really good golf player. Like, oh, that was embarrassing because Trump had handed it to him. Trump had spent 5 minutes talking about his Alzheimer's test and how he played. And it was perfect. And then Biden just got a C- out of an A+.
I also like the whining thing. I thought that was weird because that's one of those phrases, they tested it in front of audiences. Like they're like, what do we call wow? They definitely tested that word. And I just feel like the answer shouldn't be you were whining. He should have been like, you were trying to overthrow a democratic election. He should have been aggressive about that. And instead he's like, you're whining. Like, I can ignore your whining. That doesn't do anything to me. But like that would get headlines if he was like, you tried to overthrow the democratic election. You just said, he said it. Trump was like, oh, if it was legal, I would accept it. And Biden almost got there when he was like, no court ever said it was illegal and you still did. But then he's like, but you whined. No, you tried to overthrow a democratic election. That's what you did. But he didn't say that. And I'm just like, why did his aides think that whining was the better line there? I don't know.
I think calling Trump a whiner is reasonable because he does whine when he loses at anything or when he's criticized in any way. But when we're talking specifically about January 6th, that is not the right word to use. I completely agree. You should have said, or he should have said that he tried to overthrow an election. See, my stuttering's coming out. Biden should have pointed out that it's not just whining in that case, that Trump is authoritarian.
How did he never use that word? How did he never call him a fascist? How did he never call him he never said any of these words, and I don't know why.
What he should have done that. I agree 100%. But I think the most important word he should have used is loser. That's what you got to say. You got to be like, you are a loser. You came up against me in 2020. You lost. You didn't accept the fact that you lost. Then you can throw in the whining and the authoritarianism. But Trump, because it would get under Trump's skin. You know it would. Like, tell Trump that he's a fucking, you don't got to say fucking, but he is a loser. And, the American people rejected him. I won the popular vote. You couldn't hack what happened. You couldn't handle the truth. Just punish him on the fact that he lost and you lost in front of the entire nation. That's the real reason you're here. Don't tell people, I don't know. I'm acting like Trump Biden can think on his feet, but I don't know what I'm doing.
But TJ, that's not even think on his feet. You could have guessed. You could have guessed. If Biden said, you're a loser, you lost this, what's Trump going to say? No, I didn't lose it.
Yeah,
then Biden can come over the top with, no, every single court in America said you lost it. You're lying to, and easy. Anyone in the world could have played Trump into that, and
apparently not Biden's preppers. Apparently not the people that prepped the president of the United States. They weren't good enough to come up with this shit. This is incredible. Oh my god.
Nick, what were you saying there?
No, I was just saying there's two ways of going about it, right? Biden had the ability to either throw Trump off of his feet by calling him a loser, get under his skin, and then make Trump just go off and attack him when he says something stupid. Or he could have done the finishing move and just said, no, you're authoritarian. You tried to overthrow an election and called him out on his bullshit. Either of those would have been fine. But he decided to go somewhere that didn't actually lead anywhere. Are
you telling me that the liberal moderate tried to choose a middle road that didn't actually appeal to anyone and ended up looking really bad? Is that what you're telling me, Nick? Because that would be surprising. That would be. No one could have seen that coming.
That was rough. Yeah, that was rough. Yeah,
I think you hit the nail right on the head there.
Yeah. I'm not ready to put the nail in the coffin just yet, but that was not good. That did not help. That didn't help at all. That was we'll see. But
I have gone from I think Biden's going to win to I think Trump is going to win, and it's scary. It's very scary.
I can't say it after one night, one debate. I can't. That's too. It's but hey, I understand. So
I hope I'm wrong, TJ.
So for me, I think that I don't think we've seen the full. What was that?
The comment. As a barber, I love this podcast. That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's good.
Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
That's great. That's a great comment.
No, I think that we still haven't seen the full depth of what this debate means yet, because most of the time, especially early debates, the actual debate itself doesn't typically sway people one way or another. They're going to vote no matter what they do, but the clips of that debate could. And I think that Biden was less clip worthy, even though he lost this debate. He was less clip worthy than Trump. Trump said a lot of really dumb things, and had a lot of loud, incoherent babbles. He screamed into a closed mic. Like there were things like that I think were super clip worthy that might last on the internet, that might lose Trump. But the debate itself, I think you're right. Biden lost.
So, Nick, I had this exact same thought, but the way I was thinking of it was I was trying to think of like what will be memed from this debate. That was the thing. Right. I was like, what can we? Not a whole lot, honestly. And Biden's worst part were him tripping over a sentence, which doesn't play well for a clip. It's gonna be hard to loop that. It'll be a boring one to watch.
We've done that a million times now. We've seen that joke.
True. That's true. I was thinking that, and like the part that I saw was meme was like Trump talking about his golf scores, but then it turned into Biden and Trump arguing about their golf scores, which is kind of a wash. But yeah, I had the same thought too, that for the zeitgeist, it's gonna be hard to say. Lots of positive clips. He just wasn't talking. Oh, Biden's eyes would be a good meme. Where it's like
that is actually true. Though that look, I think, will be a meme. It won't be like that'll just be a meme. Like it's not like it'll matter. It just looks funny. Kyle said here, I honestly think Biden's performance was forgettable. Hopefully, what the public remembers is that Trump is unhinged. I agree. Like that's the best case scenario, but I don't think Trump was any more unhinged than he ever is. So that doesn't. I don't think that moves the needle for any. I thought that was
unfortunately. I think he was calmer. I think he was actually calmer than most of the time when we've seen him,
especially that first hour. That first hour was the best I've ever seen Trump. Like that was impeccable. Like I have no notes on Trump that first hour. It was like a different.
I mean, at least for Trump standards, right?
Yeah. God, Kimberly, I have no desire to watch a second debate.
I hate that we have to. I hate that I have to watch a second debate. That was miserable. That was
my heart, awful. Guys, when I said I thought it was an hour and a half, my heart sank. I was like, oh no, this is a 2-hour debate. I got to watch a half an hour more of this. This is horrible. I was like, oh, thank God. Closing remarks. I was so happy.
Exactly what I thought, DJ.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's one of those things where, like, I feel that it's my duty as not only as a content creator, but as somebody who lives here, to watch these debates. But I don't wanna.
I know. This is like. Do you remember how they kept having Republican debates? There were like 7 of them. Like Jesus, I just watched like the last one.
Terrible.
Those are awful. Yeah, but it's our job. It's our job. We gotta do it. All right. Any closing remarks, fellas, before we head out of here?
I want to see what Michael's saying. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Fact checking. Oh, yeah.
I am interested to chat to affect some chats here. Wow. Okay, guys, it's 11 o'clock. The left wing is over. I can't talk anymore.
Wolfie says hi, Kyle. He said kitty. Wolfie says hello. All right, the show's mascot. All right, we'll catch you guys later. Love, peace, chicken grease.